Hey everyone, Reid Henrichs with Valor. In this video, we're going to talk about Joe Biden's tips for self-defense. Let's go ahead and get started. Guys, I'm in a pretty good mood today. I'm feeling very jovial, very happy because every time I look at the demented Democrat presidential candidate and his little ramblings that are incoherent and illogical, I tend to laugh on the inside. It's like, I've got little nieces, and whenever they do funny stuff, I laugh at them because they're little children. Well, Joe Biden's a child. He's just older, but he still acts like one because he's got serious problems. So I really want to talk about his self-defense tips throughout the years, but certainly about his most recent statements about what police officers should do when they get attacked by someone. Just recently, Joe Biden said that police should be trained not to shoot to kill. They should be trained to shoot somebody in the leg instead of trying to actually kill them. The funny thing is, Joe, is that police right now aren't trained to shoot to kill. They're trained to stop the threat. So when you shoot to stop a threat, that means you have to stop somebody from carrying an attack out on you. Kind of like your Secret Service protection detail is trained to do as well. So all those dozens of people that you've got around you with pistols and submachine guns and AR-15s, all the guns that you want to ban from private citizens, see, they're trained to shoot to stop the threat. So if you want to have everything great, why don't you tell the Secret Service agents that are surrounding you, give them self-defense tips? Because I'm sure these are people that have zero training whatsoever, and you have extensive firearms training and tactical expertise. So why don't you tell them that? Here's the problem. When you shoot somebody in the leg, they do have blood vessels in those legs, the femoral artery and blood, bone marrow, things like that, where it can cause death through blood loss. So really, even if you shoot somebody in the leg, you are in fact threatening someone's life. That's called deadly force. Deadly force means that force which a reasonable person would consider to cause death or serious bodily harm. And guess what? Arterial bleeding is serious bodily harm, which can in fact lead to death. Here's the other thing that Joe Biden doesn't take into consideration when you, quote, shoot somebody in the leg. See, when you shoot somebody in the leg, their upper body still works, which means your arms and your fingers. And I know it's real tough for him to understand because he really doesn't have his functions about him. He can hardly raise his arms as it is. He can barely stay awake. So when you look at this, it's kind of funny that he has zero understanding of deadly force. So if you shoot somebody in the leg and they're still trying to kill you with a pistol or a shotgun or rifle, they can still pull the trigger with this little thing, your little trigger finger, they can still kill you. So Joe Biden's tips for self-defense when it comes to shooting people in the leg really doesn't pass the sniff test. Well, almost like when he sniffs women's hair, but it really doesn't pass the sniff test here. Of course, his other gem for self-defense planning is that if someone breaks into your house, all you've got to do is grab your old double-barrel shotgun, step out on the balcony, and touch off a couple of blasts. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I definitely would not recommend that you students out there in firearms commit aggravated discharge of a firearm. See, that's a felony in most jurisdictions. So if you are going to fire your weapon, your life should definitely be in danger, and you should probably be pointing your firearm at the threat. Problem is that when we fire rounds up into the air, this thing called gravity, the rounds come back down. They can actually hurt people when you, in fact, do fire a firearm, especially a long gun, up in the air. So, what I would not recommend is following his tips for self-defense. When you do shoot somebody with a firearm, you need to shoot them that enables you to stop the threat immediately. We're not shooting to kill somebody. We are shooting to stop the threatening behavior because our lives are in danger. Sometimes that would mean shooting them here, maybe trying to hit their central nervous system, maybe shooting them here, trying to hit their central nervous system, but certainly not just simply trying to shoot them in the leg. Problem is that criminals are hopped up on PCP, crystal meth, crack, a lot of alcohol, a lot of mental issues. Joe Biden knows a little bit about mental issues. So when we have to think about criminals, guys, just shoot them in the leg. A lot of times it doesn't stop anybody, and they can still function, as we've already talked about. His other gem involves saying that police officers, should not shoot unarmed people, like people with knives. Well, Joe, here's the problem. The definition of armed means that you have a weapon in your hand, and it doesn't just mean firearm. That could also mean a knife, flathead screwdriver, a club, little things like your little constituencies go out in the street and terrorize innocent people doing with your support, by the way. So a person with a knife is in fact armed. So I don't even think he understands what the definition of armed is. Of course, in true Democrat tradition, they don't even understand the definition of is, right, Bill Clinton? So let's all recap something here. A man who is wholly incompetent and ignorant when it comes to defense and self-defense is now campaigning to be the person who would in fact be in charge of the defense of the entire nation. You see, if this demented old octogenarian gets in office, that's going to mean he's going to be in charge of the defense not only of himself, but of the entire country. He will have the armed forces at his disposal. If he can't even give good advice and make proper decisions on an interpersonal level of violence and deadly force, can you imagine his decision-making process when he's in charge of the entire nation? When he's in charge of military assets, nuclear assets, the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, the entire Department of Defense, the entire federal police force, to include the FBI, to include the U.S. Marshals, to include any other agency that you can think of, Immigration, Customs Enforcement, which he wants to get rid of, by the way. You see, what's funny is that he even wants to take away your right to self-defense wholly, because he wants to ban firearms and confiscate them by force. And he still waffles on that. You are looking at a wholly unfit man for not only running as presidential candidate, but he's unfit by his own admission. When he takes that oath and says, I'll support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, he is that enemy. We've really got a choice in a couple of weeks which direction this country is going to go. We have one candidate, Donald Trump, who I've been critical of when it comes to the Second Amendment in the last couple of years. And I think he realized a lot of his constituency when he got the letters sent into him, when he realized it's a huge part of his voting base. Hey, he better support and defend the Constitution. He better support and defend the Second Amendment, which he has largely reversed his position on. So you got a person here who actually believes mostly in the Second Amendment, and then you got Joe Biden who wants to get rid of it. Confiscate guns by force. Get rid of entire classes of firearms because of his party's agenda. And since this is about Joe Biden's tips on self-defense, do the opposite of what that demented, senile idiot has to say. And if you really want to learn how to protect yourself during deadly force, come on out to Valor Ridge and we can teach you time-tested, proven techniques and a system that has worked throughout many years in all applications. And we'd love to see you in 2021. We'd love to see you in either pistol or rifle class. If you found the information video helpful, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Facebook, that link is down below. And we'd really love to see you in one of our classes next year. This is Reid Henrichs of Valor Ridge reminding you, the lessons that we learn are written on the tombstones of others. We'll see you on the ridge.